Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to do a long-awaited tech documentation in 2016 post, which is so long-awaited that it's actually 2017. So this is going to be tech documentation in 2017. When you're using Linux, Unix, or really any computer system, generally you just can't memorize everything. You're always going to have to look things up, and if you feel stupid for having to ask questions or look things up, then don't. Everyone forgets stuff. No one can memorize the syntax of every programming language or the syntax of every command or what every option in find does. It's too much information, and it's also not important information to memorize. As long as you understand the concepts, you understand the tools that are used for different things, you have a nimble mind for troubleshooting, you'll be good. But knowing where to find information is really more important than having memorized things. So being able to find things, I'm going to give you an overview of sort of what I think is, let's say in 2017, the best stuff you have at your disposal. Some of it's old, like you see I've got man awk open here. Man. What is man? Man stands for the manual pages. Man has been around. I actually don't know how long it's been around. Many decades, though. It's the traditional way for Unix systems to present manuals to their users. I've run man, which just says get the man page for the man command. So this is documentation on man itself. It's a manual pager. You use whatever your default pager is for your login session and look through man pages. It gives you some examples, it gives you an overview, and this is the general structure of any man page. You've got a quick synopsis, a name, and a quick description of the command. The sort of basic description will come in a little bit later for the apropos and whatis commands. Then you have a description. You've got usually a listing of each flag or option that the command takes and a description of what that needs. Some examples, hopefully. A lot of Linux man and info docs are pretty bad about this. Conversely, on Unix systems like FreeBSD, OpenBSD, even NetBSD, DragonflyBSD, and Solaris, man pages are often amazing and better than most online docs. Most online docs for Linux. So this is a fairly good man page because it is the canonical one for the man command. But that's pretty much it. I want to show you one sort of real use of this, man awk. So you can actually see that on this Debian-based system, on I think it's an Ubuntu system, awk actually defaults to mock, an awk interpreter that you can use for the incredibly powerful awk language. Awk is named for its creators, Aho, Kernighan, and Weinberg, I think. Three really smart guys that together more or less wrote this awk language, which is a text processing language. You can run files through this and do basically sort of basic programming tasks on the file while it's being streamed through this program. So you can tally things, move things around, reformat things, and emit them. It's spectacularly useful. So if you wanted to search for something, for example, the examples section for awk, you could search for, that's / to search, just like in VI or Vim, and then exam, and that should bring you down to the examples when you hit enter. You can also do previous and next with P and N, and that's basically how you navigate around these things. You can search, just like in Vim, with / whatever term you're using. There's actually even a term here. And Q gets you out of the man page. So that's the very basics of man. I'm going to go ahead and close that and introduce info. By the way, all these things are things you should try out on a few different commands that you already know, just to make sure you remember, because just trying to memorize it from watching me do it once is probably not going to work. So go ahead, type in man bash and do a little bit of reading. Okay, info. This is the GNU project foundation's sort of competitor to man. It's GNU, so the promise is that this is generally more complete documentation. That's really only true sometimes. You can think of this as more of a, I don't know, like a longer form documentation for the programs that ship info docs. A lot of the time it'll be the same thing as what you get from the man page. awk is the perfect example. This is verbatim the man page for awk. And awk is a pretty important program. So info isn't adding anything here. Info was designed for like people who ship packages or people who ship software to have nicer, like it does text formatting, and you can just write nicer documentation with this. It's got essentially hyperlinks and that kind of thing. So I can, scroll around, find something I want to see, hit enter, and I'm on that page. There's some shortcuts for like moving around, going back and forward, that kind of stuff. It's fine. Maybe this makes me a terrible sysadmin, but I don't end up using info a lot. Whatis is an interesting little command. I'm actually going to look at the man page for it. So what this actually does is it looks at the man page for something, and it looks at that one line description. So if I were to run what is, I would get this back, because this is essentially the mechanism it uses. It looks at that first mini description under the name section of a man page, and then feeds it back to you. So what is should give me exactly that thing I highlighted in the man page. And so if I do that for bash, I get a quick description. This is good for like, oh crap, I just heard this program. What does this thing do again? So I can say what is awk and get a pattern scanning and text processing language, and so much more. Apropos, similar. This one's pretty useful. You can see kind of like how things are linked together or what they refer to. So if I say apropos Z shell, what this basically does is it goes and looks at the man pages and then grabs from that basic description anything referencing ZSH. In this case, these are the man pages that that have that string in their description. So these are all these sort of Z shell related things, and that's essentially what apropos means. What is kind of tangentially related to this thing? It's going to be a much longer list if I say apropos Python, but you can see I get a case insensitive search for everything that's sort of the package description has something to do with Python. This also uses the man pages to do this magic. Before you use apropos and what is, you'll have to do sudo mandb. So run that, and what it'll basically do is go through all of your man pages in user share man, cute, and go through and create a database of all of these descriptions, so it can like index them and then quickly access them when you do apropos or what is searches. Does that make sense? So before you do these, do sudo mandb, and that indexes your man pages into a database, and then you can use apropos and what is. Otherwise, you'll just get an error like nothing found or something like that. Finally, there's user share doc. User share doc has the documentation files for all of the packages that provide them. So you can see there's Z shell down here. That's a nice one. Let's have a look at that. Let's see what's in there. Let's say Z shell common. And that's things like a list of bugs, a README from the packagers at Debian, to-dos from the developers, bugs, some examples, and gzipped changelogs, that kind of stuff. So this is just like extra stuff that isn't specifically related to the application code, but that's sort of the context for the application, maybe some documentation. Most of these in user share doc will actually like link to online docs and be like, these online docs are much more up to date, so please use them. So, 2017, yeah, this is here. Damned if I remember the last time I really used it. Okay, so that brings us to the internets, because this is a thing. So as you might expect, our sysadmin is a, water cooler, but sometimes still a good place to ask questions. And, it includes a lot of Windows stuff too, but that's okay. So if you're not hanging out here yet, it's a fun way to waste time, and occasionally get questions answered and look at docs. Our Linux obviously is a much more Linux-specific version of this. Linux tools and sort of tangentially related Linux stuff. Likewise, if you're running a different platform, or even a specific Linux distro or a different operating system like one of the BSDs or Solaris or what have you. These are smaller. You can see there's just much, fewer questions and links, but the discussion, I feel like it's a little bit higher level. Ooh, the Arch Linux Wiki. I just clicked on grab a random page here. This is smoke ping, but this is basically really nice, usually fairly complete documentation on software, on basic sysadmin tasks, and how Linux works. The Arch Linux Wiki is phenomenal, and I highly, 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 highly recommend it. You'll see sort of basic how to set stuff up, explanations of the basic features, code and configuration examples, and occasionally this is something that isn't like totally easy to port to other distributions, but in general the Arch docs are a fantastic place to at least start experimenting when you need kind of extra third-party documentation on something that isn't very well explained in its own man page or info page or online documentation. I specifically like the general recommendations page, which I'll link below. This is sort of like really popular and important stuff. I think the system administration section in particular is phenomenal and kind of talks about basic tasks that you need to do. Yeah, it's fantastic. And there you go. Follow the links down the rabbit hole and you will learn a whole lot about Linux. Likewise, the list of applications, if you're searching for, this is actually the first place I go when I'm looking for a new application to do a thing, insert thing here. This is a really nicely categorized hierarchy of different tasks that you might want to solve, and then different applications that solve those tasks. Just as an example. Little description, links. Generally, these are pruned regularly for really out-of-date stuff. So your chances of getting something high quality here without like a lot of marketing BS are very good. So definitely check it out. TLDP, the Linux Documentation Project. Great website, a lot of really outdated stuff. But if you're doing serious bash scripting, this is probably a tab you're going to want to keep open just about all the time. This was actually recently updated, I think. Yeah, 2014, so just a couple of years ago. And this will take you all the way through pretty much becoming an expert bash programmer, scripter, whatever you want to call it. It's fantastic. It's not just a memorize this, this, and this kind of thing. You really learn the reasons behind why to do certain things. You learn idioms that are proper and will keep you out of trouble. And it is exhaustive. I mean, this is a huge file. I think it's like 2.5 megs, the whole thing. I actually just opened it all on a page and I'm scrolling. I'm sorry to use all this bandwidth, but I'm doing it for a good purpose. Yeah, it's huge. So this is pretty much a book for free on Bash. It will make you an expert. Put down the Amazon tab. Stop thinking about paying $40 for a Bash book and just do this. It's free. Okay, the Stack Exchange sites. Hooray! Serverfaults. You will probably ask questions here, and more than that, you'll probably just search here or have Google bring you here when you're Googling for a specific answer to a question. This is a QA site. If you don't know it yet, definitely check it out. It's not something you really like browse the front page of often, but you'll end up on Serverfault a lot. It's the standard, just like Reddit, sort of like an upvote format, along with an accepted answer thing. So it's sort of crowdsourced technical answers. These are usually extremely high quality. So I really recommend this site when you're trying to troubleshoot a specific problem. The same for programming is Stack Overflow. If you're a programmer, if you're a web developer, if you're doing really anything that's more than totally basic programming, actually even now basic programming, all the answers are here pretty much. If you are running into an issue, someone else has probably run into it before. And if you're not so involved as to be on your like programming language's mailing list and that kind of thing, everything you need is here pretty much. There's a lot of really good stuff for solving programming and scripting related problems here. I would also like to point out that the official docs for most of the tools you use are pretty good. And starting there when you're really lost, at least to try to get the language and the jargon right before you start Googling, is a great idea. So when you come up against a problem and you just kind of don't know where to start reading up on the docs, the official docs, about the area of the program or issue where you're having problems. Try to kind of gather up the language and jargon of what you're having an issue with, and then start making more specific searches if the official docs don't solve it for you. I would say about 50% of the time, the official docs have exactly the answer I'm looking for if I could just get myself to be patient enough to stop Googling and calm down and read the docs. Of course, there's also the Google or Duckduckgo or whatever private search engine you use method, and that's just once you have some jargon for what you're looking for, and you know that, oh, what I actually want to do is called NIC bonding. I want to kind of bring multiple interfaces or network interfaces together and kind of use them as one. Well, then you can start searching for it and then get very specific answers back. And these will usually end up being the right thing. Freenode. IRC is still one of the best places to get help and ask questions, provided you have done a little bit of research first. You don't want to be the noob spamming the channel with the same question that they get every day. Hi, I'm lazy. I haven't looked at anything. Here's my question. A little too selfish for IRC generally, and you will get flamed, depending on the community you're in. However, if you've got some idea of what your problem is, and you're looking for something that's like maybe a best practice, or how do I approach this issue, or has anyone experienced this thing I'm having, anyone have any ideas what it is, or you just want to get more involved with a project, and a surprisingly huge amount of, or percentage of the time, you can actually find the people who actually wrote that project on the IRC channel for it. Kind of an amazing way to meet the real community of a project. Like, the people that actually wrote it are hanging out here usually. I know like HipChat's super popular and like all these like, oh, you know, like message boards or whatever, but go on IRC. This thing's been around for a long time, early 90s, I think, and it's just sort of a default place for competent people who actually work on stuff to hang out. So try there. You don't even need command line client for this. You can use Freenode's web chat interface. Tutorial Linux. Let's join in Python. And let's hope we pass the humanity check. Okay, so I've gone ahead and joined the, oh, is it going to try? There we go. Python. Oh, I'm in a Python unregistered because I'm not a registered user. So this is a kind of quick way to peek into the community for a place. Smaller communities, like Python's huge, so they're probably just going to like kick unregistered users. But if you say, for example, join, I don't know, Closure, that's hopefully small enough that they'll actually just put me in the main channel. So that's too bad. Everyone's quiet. I wonder if I can. Find a channel where something's going on. Okay, so Linux is huge enough that something's going on right now. People talking serendipitously about ZFS, which I love. So that's pretty much it. That's a fairly large list of resources that kind of apply in all kinds of different situations. If you're just getting started with something, you'd look at something like the official docs, man page, that kind of thing. If you're looking at just, I forgot the syntax of this command, what is it again? That's definitely a man command kind of thing. If you are interested in poking around for new software, the Arch Wiki software list is a great place for that. Likewise, their basic sysadmin guides are phenomenal. Really, really nice. For things like Bash, TLDP is great. The Linux documentation project, beware for outdated stuff, but they do date everything. Reddit is great for, you know, some mixture of water cooler discussion and actual problem solving. And for my final trick, news, ycombinator.com. One of my favorite sites. It's just sort of an aggregator for computer science and systems related news. It's a good time. It's become extremely popular over the last 5 years, and there's a lot of like advertising and other BS going on here, but occasionally you can still get great reading from it. I wouldn't call it documentation in any way. Actually, if you want. So Lobsters is an aggregator like that, but it's a place where a lot of really great people went. I think once Hacker News got way too huge, and I don't want to sound like, you know, one of those hipsters, but too popular. Because it's an aggregator, it's kind of susceptible to a lot of like gaming. So when a big company wants to make a PR release, they often do it on Hacker News just as part of their strategy, and then they get everyone to upvote it. I've even worked for companies that did this. And it's just really crowded, really prone to PR and hype and kind of that annoying constant like news cycle thing almost. So here is genuinely interesting stuff, really intelligent people, interesting discussion, and you know, if you're looking for some spare reading, you need like 5 or 10 minutes to waste, Lobsters is a great place to do it. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed those resources, and maybe I'll do another one next year or whenever the next cool documentation source comes up. Enjoy. See you guys in the next one. If this is useful, remember to thumbs up, comment, leave your own resources that you like, and subscribe. See you in the next one.